Alright, it's time for an update and forecast on the Palisades fire. As you're probably hearing, it picked up in intensity overnight last night, and there's actually some new places under threat right now. So the main question you're probably asking is, where is the fire and where is it going? Because when you hear 21.5 thousand acres and 11% containment, that doesn't actually really tell you anything. Because if you look at this fire perimeter, that's, 21,000 acres, but not all of that is actively burning. So you might wonder, okay, but what is actively burning? The first thing we can do to figure that out is by looking at some of these heat detections here, where it shows anywhere where those yellow stars are, that's going to be where the fire was more than 24 hours old. You notice most of this fire perimeter doesn't even have those yellow stars anymore. So hasn't been fire there in over 2 days probably. Orange stars is going to be 24 to 12, and then red stars is going to be what's burned in the last 12 hours. So right off the bat, you can see that most of our growth and activity over the last 12 hours has been on this northeastern section of the fire right here. And the reason that's concerning is because if we look at structures, there are structures in this area. So we'll just turn this off for the time being, just because it's cleaner to look at it this way. I mean, if you need one silver lining, at least a lot of the growth overnight last night was up towards the north here, and right on the southern edge right here where there aren't as many structures. But based on the growth last night, it does look like it's actually getting closer towards the north here, Mandeville Canyon, and then right now, I would say the main spot that I'm concerned about is actually down towards the south right here. So let's actually get into that, because I think that is the top priority. Here's the Palisades fire. This shows fire progression. As you look at where these black lines are, that shows how the fire is changing over time. And I believe the last one that we talked about in the live stream last night, that was as far as it had extended. You could see how it pushed up over this ridge and then was dropping down into Mandeville Canyon right here. And then the most recent fire perimeter data, and I just noticed it looks like they are flying some aircraft on this. The most recent fire perimeter data that we have to go off of is from 7:39 a.m. this morning. And as of that time, it looked like it did continue to grow towards the north here. So closer towards those structures, actually pushing against the wind. But in that area, it's most likely due to topography and the dry fuels. But the key spot that we're concerned about right now is this growth towards the south. Now this one, we also have the steep topography. We also have the dry fuels, but winds are also working against us as well, trying to push this down to the south. And one of the most helpful updates on watch duty was this one right here from Don, where he says, about 2 hours ago at this point, he says, the fire continues to move south, chunking away. Fire is advancing in an uneven or patchy manner, paralleling the West Mandeville Fire Road and Mandeville Canyon per radio traffic. So if we actually want to get eyes on what this looks like as it extends down to, if I zoom in a little bit, it's going to make these structures 3D so you can see better how close a lot of these structures are to this finger. And I believe on the cameras we're actually able to see what's going on right here. And I'll maybe provide some evidence for that. So looking at these cameras right here, this is going to be, we'll look at the Santa Monica one first. So this is all the way down by the beach, but it's going to be looking up towards the north right here. So that first camera is going to be this one, Wilshire 2. And let's look at it over the last 6 hours. At first it's just spinning around, but then as fire activity picks up, the camera is able to pick up on that increased activity and where some of the smoke is. Just wanted to show how that this is that camera near Santa Monica. It's close to the coast right there, pointed up towards this southern finger right there. So now zooming back on this map, camera's right there, pointed up right here towards these structures. And now let's actually see what that looks like once it locks on to the fire itself. So it locks onto the fire, it zooms in. Notice these structures in here, some of those flames, it looks like getting closer towards those structures. although it doesn't look like it's overwhelmed them at this point. Watch what happens as we get more into the afternoon, though. So as we get, I guess it's still technically late morning, it looks like this fire is starting to pick up. You're noticing more smoke coming off of this fire. And something we can kind of look at to see if that's the case is the most recent heat detections. You have MODIS and VIIRS, which show those ones within the last 12 hours. And then you also have these heat detections that are going to be less accurate than those, and they're going to overestimate the fire, but it is sometimes helpful to see what part of the fire is burning the most actively right now. And yeah, it's kind of just circling that entire northeastern section there. So that actually doesn't tell us too much more that we didn't know already. So that camera was looking from the south. Santa Monica, that little blue pin that you see right there, was looking up. But then we also see these two other cameras, one over here to the west and one over here to the east. So now we can actually check those out. Let's go to the one to the west. So that's going to be looking in this way at this kind of spot that we're zeroing in on right about here, because this looks like it's the intense part. Again, looks like there are some aircraft on it. So that's going to be our Topanga Canyon camera. And let's look at that over the last 3 hours. So kind of hard to see when the sun is right in the view right there. So as the sun starts to lift, we'll be able to see it a bit better. One thing I noticed, the smoke from this view looks to be increasing. So that goes along with the other view. And I also notice how it's kind of tilted over here. So notice how for a lot of this, it looks like it's blowing this way. That tells us that wind is definitely a factor in this fire. So if we're over on the west looking this way, and then that plume is tilted that way, that goes along with what we're seeing, that the winds are blowing from north to south and pushing this fire down towards these structures. Now, while we're talking about the winds, it actually does look like they're going to be picking up slightly as we get into this afternoon. So notice that orange to red that's up here. That's more to the northwest of where the fire is most active right now. Watch what happens as we click into this afternoon. Some of that orange starts to shift closer towards this northeastern part of the fire. And the reason that's important is because if we have strong wind, if the winds get stronger, then they're going to try to push this fire even more down to the south. Probably should have zoomed in a bit more when I was explaining that part. It also is able to kind of filter in this canyon that we have right here. So zooming back right here, we have Mandeville Canyon. Here's some of those structures that we're looking at. Our winds have a way of kind of funneling in this canyon. It does look like they're shifting a bit more northeasterly at the moment, but that's going to try to push the fire down in here, and it looks like that is already what's happening. Now, one thing that I almost don't want to show because we don't know how accurate it's going to be, but it's some of those current heat detections. Useful to look at on this map just to see roughly where it is. This is going to overestimate it, but it does look like it's still west of 405. What we don't know is if the fire has actually extended through Mandeville Canyon and gone up the other side, up towards the east towards 405. From the heat detections, it looks like that may in fact be the case, but the most recent fire perimeter data we have makes it look like the fire perimeter is still on the west. So officially, I'm going to say it looks like it's still on the west at this point, but that's definitely one of the key areas of concern throughout the day today. Right there, I would say the top spot is all of these structures right here, and then third, I'm thinking about the north as well. And just to piece together our little triangle that we were drawing around the fire. So we have that one camera to the south that we looked up, that one camera from the west, and then we also have a camera over here to the east. And if we look at that one, you can just barely see some of the smoke that is popping up right there. So as this situation continues to unfold, I'll try to bring the most recent information to you guys as I can. For the time being, I'm going to go grab a quick breakfast though, and then I'm going to keep my eyes on this throughout the day, because this is definitely one of those developing situations where there could be lives and properties at risk. So just wanted to let you guys know where it looks to be burning the most actively right now, and where it's most likely going to continue to burn in the future, which I believe is going to be more down towards the south. That seems to be the main part of the fire that they're focused on at the moment. So hopefully this video was helpful, and thanks for watching.